to introduce myself first. My name is Maureen Bilha Kamari of Baking with Amari. I am a professional baker and a trainer. My business deals with offering baking classes for bakers, online and physical as well. We are based on Gong Road, Arcades Discounts Mall, shop number 52. You can also check out our website, amaribakery.com. So today, our topic of the day is costing and pricing. I'm going to be talking about how to find out the cost of doing your cake so you can start selling. And then after that, maybe we'll take some questions from people on challenges you might have on costing and pricing. So the first thing I'll start with is exactly what you need to know before you cost and price. So the first thing I want to mention to you guys is if you want to do costing and pricing for your cakes, realize that when you're doing pricing for cakes specifically, it's what we call manufacturing pricing. So you have to account for two prices, direct costs and indirect costs. So when it comes to baking, direct costs are anything that is related to making your cake itself. Like with that thing, if that thing is not there, you cannot be able to price your cake. For example, ingredients, the labor of the baker, the kitchen, the premise that you're actually using. Direct costs are directly related to making your cake. Now, the second type of costs you have to account for are indirect costs. So this is everything else, not directly related to making your cakes, but something to do with your business, like maybe operational costs, marketing, anything to do with advertising, packaging, and other things, right? Like things that you don't need to bake your cake, but you need to run your business, right? So realize first, deal with your direct prices. Secondly, deal with your indirect prices. So just to give you an example of how to do costing for your direct prices, like we would start with your ingredients. So if your recipe has all-purpose flour, baking powder, butter or sugar, whatever it is, you want to find the price of that specific thing. So just to give you an example, and I think what I'll do is have Topserve share with you guys a link so you can download a template I have for costing, because there's no way I can do a full costing. It's really, really involved, but I'm going to give you an example that can kind of showcase how to do the actual pricing. So for example, if I am looking at all-purpose flour and I'm trying to find out how much does it cost to use my flour. So if my recipe has 100 grams, I have to be able to find out the price of the flour, and I mean price of the flour like per gram. Then from there, the price of 1 gram times 100 grams, and that's how you find out the cost of flour. So one of the recipes that I tell bakers we should know is cost of a quantity. So if you want to find out the cost of 1 gram of flour, you look at how much do you buy the flour. Like for example, if you bought the flour 200 shillings and the flour itself is 2,000 grams, so you're going to do cost 200 shillings divided by the quantity of the flour, which is 2,000. You have to have a tried and tested recipe. You have to have a recipe that's consistent, that's in grams, not in cups. Hello. That is tried and tested. And if you're looking for tried and tested recipes, we actually sell recipes. Just check our site. So you have to have a tried and tested recipe. So like I have a recipe that's 300 grams of flour, 8 grams of baking powder, 200 grams of butter, 200 grams of sugar, whatever it is. So I have to find the cost of each particular ingredient, the cost of the 100 grams of flour, the cost of the baking powder, the cost of the sugar, the cost of the butter, everything. Then once you do that cost, you're going to break that down. You're going to do the total of all of these ingredients, right? So I hope the finding the cost per gram has made sense. I don't have any questions for that. So now once you do the total cost of your cake, like for example, if you do the cost of 1 kg of it's gonna end up being something, right? So flour, right? Ingredients, milk. If you're doing frosting, that would be icing sugar, food color. Or if you're doing whipped cream cake, that would be like your biscuit, your unlimited, all those things. So you have to find the cost of each ingredient. Once you find the cost, you're going to do the total and find out how much does it cost to actually make the cake and to decorate the cake, right? So that's a direct cost. Another direct cost you want to find is maybe, for example, your labor, like exactly how to pay yourself. Because if you're selling your cakes, you definitely need to make sure you're paying yourself, and that's one of the mistakes that bakers make. They tend to forget to add their labor. So there's two ways generally I tell you to come up with that way of paying yourself. So the first way is doing piece off, right? Like looking at how long does it take to bake the whole cake, right? Whether it's 3 hours, 5 hours, and this is everything. You have to account for prep, buying those ingredients, prepping, heating your oven, definitely like the whole thing, like from baking all those things. So you want to see how long does it actually take. For example, maybe it takes you 1 hour to prep, right? Or 2 hours to go buy things and prep. And then it takes you 1 hour to bake, 1 hour to pull the cake, maybe another 1 or 2 hours to actually prep the cake, right? So you might find for one cake you're using 5 to 6 hours to actually do 6 hours. Now that quantification is different for everyone, right? Because you can decide per hour you want to pay yourself 100 shillings. Somebody else might decide they want to pay themselves 500 shillings. It depends on skill, how much money you want to make, so many things. So you're going to look at those hours, multiply them by a certain figure. Like for example, if it was 200 shillings, I'm looking at it for 6 hours, so it's going to be 600 shillings more. Then come up with a final cost for me. And the good thing about that is that if you're looking to see if your business is actually profitable or at least pay, you can actually be able to, every time you sell your cake, take that 600 or that 500 and actually pay yourself, right, for each cake you do, so that you're actually paying the baker, whether it's yourself or someone else, to do that. So that's one. So all of them are that's the second direct cost that you can account for. Another direct cost that you would have to account for would be rent, like the premise, where it is you're baking. So for example, if I have a shop, and generally if I want to bake a cake for someone, I have to bake the cake in the shop, right? I don't have another kitchen that I have to bake. So if I have a premise, that would be rent. So you want to account
That's what
for
I'm trying
the
to.
accounts or the expenses
Nimeona
for
tutumie
that
hapa.
workshop. So if
Yeah,
it's
but
rent,
yeah,
if it's water, if it's electricity, all the expenses that you have to account for that. Because again, those are direct expenses. Without that premise, you can not be able to run your business. So you want to make sure you put the rent there, you put the electricity, you want to put water. If it's a gas oven you're using, you want to put the gas oven there so that you can account for those different. I think if you're beginning in your home baker, those are really maybe the direct costs you want to use in your business. As you grow your business, you start adding other direct costs. But for now, those are the main direct costs you want to use when it comes to running your business. Now, when it comes to indirect costs, these are things like maybe marketing. If you market online, that's one thing. Airtime, maybe the telephone costs, internet costs, like transport for going to buy things or something like that. There's different types of costs that you need to operate your business, but you don't need those costs specifically for baking the cake. So those indirect costs are the other things that most people tend to not account for. So remember, if you're a baker, direct costs, indirect costs, then you do the total to find out how much it actually costs to make your cake, right? So I hope that makes sense. If you do have questions, you can comment below. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when it comes to buying your ingredients, you have to look at cost of ingredients based on the type of business you have. So if you're a home baker, you want to make sure you're saving costs, but at the same time, you're not buying in bulk or buying things in bulk that are so perishable that they end up spoiling, which actually ends up giving you spoilage, right? Which is also, or waste, which is also a bad thing in your business. So what you want to do, if you're a home baker, start considering saving costs. Like for example, if Topserve have some kind of sale, you can kind of check what they have on sale each month and then buy the things. And then another thing is that instead of buying in bulk, like let's say if you're buying fruit fillings, you can buy smaller pieces, right, instead of the larger bulk pieces, so that you're actually able to save costs. So like for example, if I was to show an example, instead of buying a large package of cherries, you can start like buying something small for starters. Then as you grow, you can start buying something a bit bigger. So what that does, especially if you're a home baker, it helps you save on waste, especially if you buy something that is large. Over time, you'll either have to consume yourself, which is wasting, or you'll have to like throw it away because it's spoiled, right? So that's an example. So you can try saving costs by maybe checking out deals or sales that Topserve have, so that you're able to save costs on your ingredients. Now, if you are either a very busy home baker or you're like a small bakery shop that is, you know, quite consistent when it comes to cake orders or something like that, what you want to do is start buying in bulk. Because if you buy in bulk, you're able to save costs big time. For example, if I was to buy like 45 grams of sprinkles, that would be a bit more expensive than maybe buying 5 kgs of sprinkles, right? So over time, as your business grows, whether it's flour, whether it's sugar, you want to start buying things in bulk so that it can start saving you cost, which helps you actually either make more profit when you're selling the cake, or you're able to actually sell your cakes slightly cheaper than you would if you're buying your products at retail. So just something to consider when it comes to buying. And another thing you can consider is that Topserve actually sell some items in wholesale, right? Whether it's cake boxes or glucose syrup or something like fondant. So if you're looking to buy something bigger, save money, you can just inquire with Topserve the items that they actually sell wholesale. So the other thing I would mention, or I want to mention, is that a lot of people tend to forget to pay themselves. So they'll do all the expenses, all the ingredients, the packaging, but they forget to put the labor, right? So make sure, whether you're doing piecework or whether you've chosen to, maybe instead of doing piecework, if this is your consistent hustle, if basically on a daily basis you're baking cake, you're selling cake, you want to make sure you can pay yourself a salary so that you're able to sustain yourself. So if it's a side hustle, you can do piecework like per hour. But if not, I would suggest maybe setting a salary for yourself as the baker, and then making sure you're selling a lot of cakes per month, so that cost of paying you, the baker, is not very high, right? Like for example, if I'm only selling 5 cakes a month, but I want to pay myself 20,000, right? That means for each cake, I will have to pay each cake labor is about 4,000, which is too high. So what you want to make sure, if you want to pay yourself 20,000, you want to sell a lot of cakes, right? You want to sell 20, 30, 40 cakes a month, right? So what you want to do is be conscious of, if you want to pay labor for your cakes, you also want to make sure that the consistency, or the number of cakes you're selling is also a bit higher, so that it makes sense to you as a business owner. So remember, make sure to pay yourself, but in order to pay yourself, make sure that you're baking enough cakes so that you're able to pay yourself. So I also just wanted to highlight some questions that bakers ask and just kind of give answers to that, especially when it comes to challenges that generally bakers tend to have when it comes to costing. So one of the questions people tend to ask is, what factors should I consider when it comes to pricing my cakes, right? So one of the things people tend to forget when you're pricing your cakes is that you cannot do costing. Maybe find out that it costs you 1,500 to make your cake, and then just round off and come up with a number like 1,600. There's other things you actually have to consider when it comes to pricing your cakes. Am I paused? Oh, Julie, no. I couldn't move it. I can continue. What was my point? So when it comes to pricing, one of the things that you want to consider is first, how much money do you actually want to make? So if I'm doing my costing, I found that it cost me 1,600 to bake my cake. Obviously, I want to make money on top of that. So you want to start by adding a percent on top so that you're able to make a certain profit margin on top so that you have that little extra. Because most of us are doing business so we can make that little extra on top, right? So once I find the cost of cake, I need to add a percent margin so that I'm able to make money in this cake making that I'm doing. And most of the times, depending on the type of business you have, I tell you to put a percent depending on the business. So if you're a home baker, maybe keep it between 10 to 20%. Small bakery businesses, depending on whatever it is, whoever they're serving, they can do 15 all the way to 30%, right? So first thing you want to do is add a profit margin that makes sense for your business. Another thing you want to consider is what you're selling, right? The niche or target market that you're selling for. So for example, if I'm selling wedding cakes and if I'm selling just regular celebration cakes, it's going to depend on how much like my clients pay. So if somebody's paying for wedding cakes, it's going to cost more, which means that I can put a higher percent, right? I can put 30, 40, 50%. However, if I'm doing celebration cakes and it's just simple soft cream cakes, unfortunately, you can't put a very high margin on that. So we tend to, keep it between 10, 15 to 20% when it comes to the celebration cake. So realize that when you're baking for business, it depends on which niche you are in and who your target market is for you to be able to put a certain percent margin. So you can play around with different margins like 10, 15, 20 to see. Also, if you are doing like a luxury, something that's more expensive, something more premium, you can actually be able to do a higher percent when it comes to that, right? Another question people tend to ask is how to account for packaging costs in your pricing. So I would just tell you, when you're doing your direct cost, when you're doing your ingredients, please put your cake board, please put your cake box in there so that you're able to account for that as well. Another question is, people wonder if buying in bulk affects your costing. It does, except for one of the things I tell bakers is, if you're doing your costing, you can cost using retail prices. But then when you buy in bulk, you're actually able to save money so that at least your profit margin is a little bit higher, right? So you can cost with retail, but buy in bulk, which means that you're able to save. The good thing about that also is, if you cost in retail, if maybe there's a certain period where you're not able to buy in bulk, you can actually still make money because you have costed using retail prices, right? Another thing that people ask is how you should cost for custom cakes with unique decorations. So if you're the type of person who gets a lot of people who do custom or unique types of cakes, I would suggest not, or maybe giving people a kind of quotation, right? So instead of committing to one type of price, tell your clients, let me get back to you with the price, sit down, do your costing really quickly, and then you're able to come up with that price. Because when it comes to custom cakes, it's very hard to have one specific price for a specific custom cake, right? Because there's extra decorations they want, maybe there's extra toppers they want. So make sure to tell somebody, I'm going to give you a quotation, do the quotation, maybe go to the Topserve website, check the price, and then come back and give them the price, right? How do you factor in the cost of those things? Same way you're adding the cost of the flour, just add the cost of the edible print or the paper topper. Just keep adding those extra costs when it comes to the ingredients. Some people ask, how do I cost for premium ingredients like fondant and modeling chocolate? So like, for example, if you don't make your own fondant and you like buying your own fondant, because like Topserve sell fondant, so that's, you don't have to make your own. So one of the things you can do is find out how much fondant you use per cake, right? Maybe like for 1 kg of cake, you're using 500 grams of fondant. So ask Topserve how much they sell their fondant, discover how much 500 grams of fondant is, add that to the cost of making your cake, right? Same thing for modeling chocolate or anything else. If you have a recipe, find out how much the ingredients are, do your total, and then you can be able to add on to that. So again, the same way you're doing your ingredients, your packaging, your toppers, add all those things in the same place, right? Another question people ask is, should I include the time spent planning and shopping for your supplies? Yes, you should, right? You want to include every aspect of baking that cake. So not just baking the cake, right? You also want to, especially like for custom things like weddings, if there's consultation, if there is, something like sketching or trying to find what's going to work for this specific custom order, you want to always make sure you account for every or all the labor costs that are attached to a certain cake so that you're able to get your money's worth, or at least you're able to price your labor accordingly. There's also a question on how can I streamline your baking process to reduce costs. So I would say plan ahead. If you know what you're supposed to, like if you know today is Tuesday and you have to bake on Thursday, make sure you plan ahead like a day before to make sure you have the ingredients and the packaging that you need. Then plan out how long do I need to prep, how long do I need to bake, cool this cake and decorate it. So just get used to planning ahead if you need to. If it's a complex design, you can also sketch ahead of time so that you know exactly what you need to do to be able to come up with your order. So with streamlining, I just say plan ahead and have a nice schedule so that you're able to save time. When it comes to wastage, for those bakers who are looking to manage wastage, so it depends on which type of baker are you. Are you a home baker? Do you have a shop? Are you really busy? So if you know you're a home baker that's not consistently busy most of the time, you want to make sure you buy smaller products, right? Instead of buying in bulk, maybe buy smaller products so that you don't have to keep wasting. Instead of maybe buying 1 liter, you can choose to buy like Diana, the powder whipped cream, because that at least lasts longer. So what you can do is you can look at your own business, see how busy you are, and then plan yourself based on that, right? However, if you're a busier baker, if you have a shop, make sure you're buying in bulk and you have like reorder levels. For example, you can have minimum orders, quantities you have for specific products. Have maybe 10 boxes. The least amount of boxes you should have is like 10 boxes. Come up with systems like that that kind of help you reduce waste and run your business efficiently. One thing that people also ask is how home bakers approach costing and pricing as opposed to shop owners, right? So when it comes to home baking, I think it's a little simpler because you can choose to omit maybe some expenses. So if you're a home baker, you can choose to like not put your rent or, omit some of those expenses that are being added in your costing so that you're able to save cost a little bit. However, if you become a bakery shop, you have to account for every cost that you have, right? Rent, whether it is electricity, whether it's water, you have to make sure you're accounting for all those costs, because if you don't, your business is actually going to go at a loss, right? So the difference, I think, between the two is that home bakers, it's a little bit more lenient. You don't have to put all the costs there. However, when it comes to small bakery shops, they have to account for every cost, because if they don't, they're actually going to close their businesses because they're not going to be profitable, right? Another thing to consider is if you have a busy bakery, even if it's a home bakery, or you have a small bakery shop, you want to consider minimum order quantities. Like if you sell a specific type of cake per month, you want to make sure you're making a certain number of sales, right? Like either you're selling 20 or 30 cakes a month and not less. Because if you're not able to hit those targets, you're not going to make money with your costing and pricing. So just, some differences when it comes to bakery shops and bakers. Just another question people ask.
Yeah, there's a question on Facebook by Lishad Mataru, who is asking about how you factor in the cost of labor and electricity.
So when it comes to labor, I had mentioned, but I'll repeat this. There's two ways of accounting for labor. So the first thing you want to do is either choose whether you want to do piecework, like if you're a home baker that's not busy, or you're doing this as a side hustle. You want to sort of quantify how long it takes to bake your cake, right? All the way from shopping for the items, prepping for the cake, baking, cooling, decoration, the whole thing. So if you're making a 2 kg cake and it takes you like 5 to 6 hours, account for those hours. Then you need to settle on like a figure to charge, or to be able to charge per hour, right? Like I can decide I want to be paid 50 shillings an hour or 100, right? So if I'm working for 5 hours and I'm being paid 100 shillings per hour, that means for each cake, it's going to be 500 shillings, right? That's one example. Do it piecework. A second way of doing it is setting a salary for yourself as a baker. So if you know you're busy, you have consistent orders, let's say you're getting 30 to 40 orders minimum a month, you can choose to pay yourself a salary. For example, I can choose to set my salary to be something like 20,000 shillings. Then what I'll do, I'll take that 20,000 shillings and I'm going to divide by the number of cakes I sell per month. So 20,000 divided by 40. And each cake is going to pay that amount for labor, right? So I hope that answers the question, that it's either quantifying per piece with hours, or paying yourself salary and making sure each cake is actually committing to that salary per month. When it comes to, what's the price of labor and
Electricity.
the other one for electricity? So to give you an example, I'll give you one example. I'm going to assume that you use tokens for your electricity. And so what you want to do is ask yourself, for each like 2 kg or 3 kg cake, how many tokens do you use? So for example, maybe it uses 1 token to bake the cake, and then I would add an additional token, right, for the mixer and the lights and everything. So each cake, we can say, uses 2 tokens every time you bake it. So you need to look at your KPLC token message or whatever that is, and see how much is each token. So if each token for you, because they're different for everyone, is like 30 shillings per token, and each cake uses 2 tokens, so that means for electricity for each cake, that's going to be 60 shillings, right? So that's one way of doing it. I think that's it on the question.
Yeah, there's a baker on TikTok who is asking which is the best cream to use in all cakes.
It
Will
depends.
there be a comprehensive answer for every
someone
type
like
of
that,
cake?
I think it depends, yes, because you have to. It would depend if it's a sponge cake. I would say something like whipped cream, right? Like Pristine or Ambiente or something like that. But if it is a butter cake, right, like vanilla cake, chocolate cake, those you can either do whipped cream or buttercream. Either of those work, right? Yeah. No other questions?
No, let's continue.
Okay then. So I wanted to get into pricing your products on promotion, right? So as a baker, you want to sit down and do pricing for all your products, right? If you're selling 10 types of cakes, you have to do pricing for each type of cake. Like, don't just do for the vanilla. Do for the chocolate, do for the Black Forest, do costing for each. And again, if you need help with costing and pricing, we sell an ebook that comes with a spreadsheet with a formula. So just reach out and I'll give you details on that. So just do costing and pricing for each product so that you can know this is how much it actually costs to make. Like my chocolate cake will cost 1,600. My Black Forest will cost maybe 1,900, something like that. So once you find out how much it costs to make each product, have 2 prices, set 2 prices, right? I always tell you to set 2 prices. Have a regular price and then have a discount price. So for example, if my cake costs 2,000, I can decide that my regular price is 2,500 and my discount price is 2,300. So either way, you're going to be making a profit. It's just that when it's the regular price, it's more profit. When it's the discount time, it's a little less profit, right? So once you have those 2 prices in your files or something like that, you're going to be able to figure out when it's Valentine's, when it's special season, I'm going to sell discount price. But when it's the regular times, I'm going to do my regular pricing, right? So when it comes to discounts, that's how I would tell you to deal with your costing and your pricing so that you're still able to make money, right? So another question is, which strategies can bakers use to attract more customers with pricing without losing them? So the only strategy I would tell you with that is sell something small. So for example, if you're a type of baker who sells 1 kg cakes or 2 kg or 5 kg, have a product that can be something small like a box of 6 or like a dozen cupcakes, right? So that's something smaller that people tend to come back more often or can be able to buy slightly cheaper than your 1 kg or your 2 kg cake. The thing about those smaller products is that you have to sell many. So if you're going to start selling cupcakes, make sure you're marketing them a lot so you're actually able to still make profit by selling many of them, right? So instead of selling 5 cakes, make sure you're selling like 15 to 20 dozen cupcakes. So people sell more, will buy more because it looks cheaper. But at the same time, your job is to market so that you're able to push more when it comes to that, right? Any questions?
No questions at the moment.
There's also a question on which products are best to buy during clearance sales. So one of the things I tell you guys is like check out when there's clearance sales on molds. Like for right now we have like Topserve has these molds on sale like at 200. So when they have tools that you don't actually tend to buy often, or tools that once you buy them you won't have to buy again, that's the best time to actually leverage, taking advantage of those sales. Another thing is smaller products, right? Like if they have a sale on something like the filling or a small, even if it's perishable, something that's a small size, that's a good thing to buy. Even if you know you don't have an order at that time, for sure, within a month or two, you're going to be able to buy that product. So some of the things I would say take advantage, tools that, don't spoil or tools that last long, but also perishable items that are a bit smaller that you're going to end up using over time, right? So for people who would wonder what tools and resources can help you with accurate costing and pricing, first and foremost, just yourself being able to track what you're doing. So make sure you're tracking, how are you buying stuff? Are you keeping the receipts? Do you know the price of every ingredient that you buy, every piece of packaging, right? So if Topserve gives you a receipt, keep it so you're able to track your costs, right? Your expenses and how you're spending them. Even your expenses like electricity, rent, all those things. Make sure you're writing them somewhere and keeping track of those costs and figuring out what they are per month. Another thing to keep track of is sales. Like if you've been doing business for over 3 months, you should be able to know what your average sales per month, right? Make sure you're keeping track of how many sales can actually make in an entire month and what type of things also are you selling. So that's the first thing I tell bakers to do. Just keeping track of your expenses and your sales is your number one resource for costing and pricing accurately. Now, once you do that, you need to know exactly how to cost, like the exact details. If you need to get an Excel sheet, if you need to get an ebook, like the type of ebook we sell, get the specific knowledge to be able to price or cost and price for your business. The other thing I tell you is understand your business. Are you a home baker? Are you a small bakery shop? Are you a retail walk-in shop? Understand the type of business you have so that you're able to cost and price accordingly. Then the final thing I tell you is get the knowledge you need on pricing. Pricing is also a very intensive topic by itself, right? There's costing and then there's pricing. So to price, you need to understand many things. Is understanding your clients, your niche, your target market. There's also different types of pricing strategies like competitive pricing, psychological pricing. Psychological is like, for example, instead of pricing something at 2,000, you price something at 1,900, right? Something like that. There's economy pricing. That's like when you are selling very cheap products that are very budget for a specific type of clientele. There's premium pricing, right? That's when you're selling a high cost or a premium product to people looking for something that is very premium. So that's premium pricing. There's also something like penetration pricing. So that's somebody who's new getting into the market, trying to penetrate the market. So that's penetration pricing. So understand the different types of pricing strategies understand your target market, understand who you're selling to, what you're selling. If you do all those, you'll be able to price accordingly and actually be able to sell to people, right? Because sometimes people don't understand that, and they're not able to actually sell because they don't know how to price very well. So that's one of the things I would tell you. I think that's majority of what I'd mentioned on costing and pricing. Do you have any input, Ruben? No input? Okay. So I think for me, I'll just mention again, when it comes to saving costs on ingredients, remember Topserve has monthly sales. You can check their website, Topserve Limited. Yeah, so that's what I'm asking if you're done here. They have nothing else. Any questions?
So at a scenario where a baker
Yes.
is using extra accessories,
Okay.
like toppers.
Okay.
Today I used 800 shilling edible print. Next time I use a 200 shilling acrylic cake topper. And those are two clients who have referred each other. How do I do costing, and how do I explain to both of them that the cost of the cake is just right?
So one of the things I would suggest, that's a very good question, is having terms and conditions in your business, right? So for example, if you know you sell birthday cakes to different types of people, you can have a certain price, like in your price list or your menu, but have like a description writing there that this cake is only the frosting and basic decoration. And then your terms can have at the bottom something that says, if you would like extra toppers or if you would like extra decorations, they come at a specific charge, right? So that's one way I'd suggest bakers do it, just so that you don't have friction with the two clients. But another thing I tend to do actually is you can have a specific cost that you've added for toppers, right? So like maybe have an extra 200 that you have in your cakes at all time that can cater for toppers such as this one, or just something small like sprinkles that's already included there. So you can either have an existing amount that's in there, like 200 shillings, or you can just have a disclaimer that tells clients that for any other extra topper, you're going to have an extra charge that comes with that.
There's a Martinez on TikTok who is asking, how do I get to learn about the pricing that you have mentioned?
So we actually have a cake pricing ebook. We also have an online class. So you can just check our website, amaribakery.com, and we have details on there.
amaribakery.com. Bethmin Boys, you're asking, do you have a branch in Mombasa? No, we do not have a branch in Mombasa, but we have 2 branches in Nairobi, 1 branch in Nakuru, another in Bungoma, Kisumu, Meru, and Eldoret. Yes, also, how will you factor in, and what type of products are reasonable for certain classes of bakers? There are home bakers, there are retail bakers here in the city. I'm sure they are not using the same type of products, not types, same quantities of products.
So you mean the size, right? Not location. The size of the baker, like a
The
home
size of
baker
the
or a
baker.
bakery shop,
A
right?
bakery shop, home
And a
baker.
home baker, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I'd mentioned, if you're a home baker, you want to buy, like for example, if you make fondant, if you make your own fondant, and you are a home baker, which means you're not so busy, right? You're not consistently busy. Maybe you get 1 or 2 fondant cakes for every 2 months. So instead of purchasing something like this 5 kg glucose syrup, you can start by actually just getting this 500 gram one, right? It's still, and sometimes like Topserve said, they usually have sales on some of these products. So you can start by just having these smaller products. But as you remember, I said, keep track of your sales, right? As you look at your sales and you grow, maybe you get a bakery shop, you want to get something like this. Now, the difference between a home baker and a bakery shop is that a bakery shop will be able to save costs by purchasing something like this, right? Because when they sell these larger items, they tend to be cheaper overall, right? As opposed to buying this. So if you're a home baker, you can start getting these smaller sizes just to avoid any type of spoiling, or just having, like some of these, if they stay more than 2 years, they tend to harden. So you want to make sure to avoid wastage, to avoid things spoiling. Just get smaller stuff. Just check out for clearance sales for if you want to save cost. However, if you are a large bakery, I would not suggest buying this. I would suggest buying like the 5 kg. Because if you look at the grams overall, the cost per gram overall of this and this is cheaper, right? So you want to get like this 5 kg, which is 1,300, as opposed to this 500 ml, which is 200 shillings. So in essence, this is kind of more expensive than this one. So if you're a large business, save on cost, get bulk items. However, if you're a home baker, don't waste, reduce on wastage, and also storage, right? That's another thing that maybe if you're a home baker, you don't have so much storage. So you want to make sure you're using something like this. When you compare the sprinkles. Here's another example. So for example, if you do celebration cakes, right? And most of you generally use a lot of sprinkles. So yes, you can buy like these 45-gram one. But if you find you keep buying it, like you've bought maybe 5 over a period of let's say, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, you want to start thinking of investing in this. And sometimes it's worth actually taking 2 or 3 orders and then just saving that money, right? Save that money so that you, instead of buying this, you end up buying this. It's going to be worth it over time, because it's almost 5 times more expensive to buy this as opposed to something like this. So and not just bakery shops, I think even if you're a home baker who's really, really busy, you can actually start buying something like this instead of buying the small one. Another example, chocolate as well, right? You can just, if you're a home baker, if you're just getting started, if it takes you long to get those orders, you can get these tiny ones, right? This small size, whether it's dark chocolate or white chocolate. However, if you're busy and you've started using it a lot, you can actually save cost by buying this 2.5 kg instead, right? So if you do a lot of Black Forest, Death by Chocolate, fudge cakes, you melt this a lot, you use it a lot. Even for class, this is what we use instead. So get this instead if you've started getting busy. And by the way, when it comes to sales or something like that, you can consider some of these, for example, right now, Topserve have Chef Master colors on sale, right? So if you buy one, it's $350. But if you buy 3, it's $300. And if you buy 6, it's $280, right? So if you're still gonna buy these colors, might as well start saving costs by checking out the clearance sales that they have, right? And you don't have to get 6 of the same color. You can just get, 3 primary colors and 3 dark ones or something like that, right? So start checking out their websites and start saving in costs by looking at the clearance items they actually have in time. And this actually works for both home bakers, like this particular, because they don't spoil really quickly. So you can buy this and keep it for a year plus, right? So some of the items, I think, if they're more perishable in your home baker, buy small. But if they're not very perishable, you can buy in bulk. Like this can stay for very long.
Yeah, just to add a note on the Chef Master colors, we do offer wholesale pricing, just as you said, from 3 pieces and 6 pieces and above. Disclaimer, the wholesale pricing comes as a factor when one buys one type of color, one violet line of 3 pieces or 6 pieces, or red or Christmas red or whichever. Yeah, so a baker from TikTok, Marimar, asking how much fondant will someone need for 3 cakes? I know it's not really related, but you would
but-
answer.
So my question would be, what weights would those cake be? Now,
Let's take into okay.
to our consideration. We'll wait to hear that, but if it's a 1 kg cake, 1 kg uses about 500 grams. So if you're doing them separately, I would say, about 1,200 to 1,500 grams of fondant. 1,200 grams to 1,500 grams.
Of fondant.
Yeah, for the 3 cakes.
For the 3 cakes.
Yeah, because it's 400 to 500 per cake.
Per kg.
Yeah.
And Nirvana is saying she didn't hear the website. Kindly repeat.
Which website?
Your website.
AmariBakery.com. So that's AMARIBAKERY. AmariBakery.com.
Viv is asking, what advice would you give about cake boxes and cake board purchases?
Which advice? That's very general. Maybe I'll wait for him to read your comment on you specifying, because I think it depends on your question. If you're looking to save cost, I would tell you maybe buy in bulk. So instead of, I think Topserve actually offer bulk pricing for 25 boxes and above. So if within a 2-month period you're buying 25 boards, just buy the 25 instead of just one or two, right? So I would suggest maybe buying in bulk. I don't know if that's what they meant.
Yeah, buying in bulk does help save on cost, because we have smooth boxes have a wholesale pricing from 25
pieces, yes, 25 pieces and above.
And also boxes we do have wholesale pricing. When you buy in bulk, helps save costs, especially if you have many orders at a time. So in Havana saying, for example, she sells cupcakes and she's looking to save costs. What advice will you give about that?
So if you sell cupcakes, one of the things that's tricky is that since you're smaller, and in essence, especially if you're a home baker, they do tend to make a little less money. I would tell you sell more. So the interesting thing about selling is that costing and marketing go together. If you want to maximize your profits, you actually have to increase the orders you have. So if you do not have a lot of orders per month, do better in your marketing, increase your marketing, or do more effective marketing so that you're able to sell more cupcakes a month, which means more profits over time.
So she has written, when buying the 6 whole, costing 55 seems a bit expensive in the aspect of making profit. If you could, so in Havana, if you could phrase your question a different way, probably, to understand better. She's talking about the box. We have a 6-whole box that costs 55.
True.
So that means it's 6 cupcakes.
Yes.
So how will she attain profit?
I think that one of the things I was mentioning, when it comes to pricing, you have to look at who you're selling to. So stop selling to people who don't value your cupcake. So if you're selling in the 6-whole, well, sell to people who are willing to buy in that packaging. Because I know tons of people in a certain market who don't mind that packaging, and they don't mind paying more for that packaging. So I think maybe you're targeting a different type of clientele, but packaging in the wrong place. So understand, am I selling budget stuff? If you're selling budget stuff, stop selling in the 6-whole. But if you want to sell to people who appreciate the value, then stop selling to budget people and start selling to people who value your cake, right? So I'd say maybe targeting is a problem. Because 55, I think, is quite reasonable.
55 is reasonable. Yeah. Also, I'd say I know a baker who sells 6 cupcakes at a price of 500.
Exactly.
And decorated cakes.
Exactly.
Actually.
Even there's some people who even do 1,800 and 2,000, and people still buy. So just target the right people.
1,800 shillings.
Yes.
For 6 cupcakes.
Yes.
Yeah. So Havana, we hear about people. It's about pricing and your target market.
Yeah.
If you understand who your clientele is, what they can afford.
Yeah.
So Navana says she sells at 500 because she's in campus. And I will ask Navana, do you decorate your cakes? Do you add whipping cream? Do you add sprinkles? Do you use... if you do 1,300, no one will buy. Are you certain no one will buy? She uses butter. She does buttercream. What type of buttercream? Margarine or actual butter?
Butter is expensive, so if it's butter, yeah. Or maybe she can try
She
something
says she
like
uses
Diana.
margarine.
She can try Diana. Interestingly enough, she might find that it might be cheaper to
Yeah.
do like the Diana
Powder
instead of
whipping cream.
yeah. Might save her a little bit on cost.
But does it really matter whether you're selling to students or not? They are students with money, right?
True. Yeah. So again, your target market.
Your
It can
target
be
your
students
target
who are
market is
looking
what matters.
for high value stuff. Yeah.
So also, I want to assume that she did not catch the part about marketing. So would you say something about marketing and how she'd factor in marketing expenses and costs
True, because you do.
when she sells the cakes?
Okay, so first and foremost, before I even get into the costing of marketing, get creative. Like if you're starting, so I assume you're possibly in the starting stages, which is why you're seeing campus kids. Start marketing creatively in a way that doesn't cost you too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's tricky, but just be creative in your marketing, right? Even like going on TikTok live or different things in campus or specific types of cake tastings can be helpful for you. So get creative in your marketing, see what other people have done that's really creative and do that. Now, on top of that, account for your marketing in your costing, right? So however it is, because like, for example, I've told you to samples. Restrict yourself to like doing 6 cupcakes as samples per month. Remember, you have to find the cost of doing those 6 cupcakes, incorporate them in your costing so that you're not going at a loss, but then make it count, right? Like make those 6 cupcakes count. Get creative on how to market. Then also stop restricting yourself. Those campus students have family. They have sisters and brothers and cousins who are maybe working. So don't just like target one set of people.
Yeah.
That can be just, you can do that one set as campus students, but start looking for other people, right? Like people have left campus and just got a job.
They're also
that's a
lecturers.
good place there.
Lecturers.
There you go. You can do lecturers. Exactly. Yeah. Don't restrict yourself because it's going to be really difficult.
Someone has asked which campus. Yeah, so Navana, you'll help us to understand which campus it is, because
that could
the
be
population of the people around also matters.
True. Again, so target market, right? So if your target, it's like I give people an example. I'm just gonna give an example. It's relevant. If I take a Black Forest and I go in the middle of Kangware market and I sell it at 1,500, people won't buy it. If I go to Loresho, 1,500, people will refuse. They'll refuse. If I go to Loresho and I sell the same cake 1,500, they'll refuse. But each of them will refuse for different reasons.
So Loresho will refuse because it's too cheap.
It's too cheap. But Kangware
1,500 is too expensive.
Exactly. So I'm targeting wrong. So are you targeting your products to match whoever you're selling? Because you can be selling a very good product to the wrong people.
Yeah.
So you have to sell to the right people so that they see the value, they buy.
So Navana is in Kemu in Meru. Yes.
Hi, I'm Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
I wanted to ask, how do you cost to factor in the fluctuating prices of ingredients? Because you might cost based on the current price of flour, and then next week it has gone up, or maybe it has gone down. So how do you cost to maintain your price? Because you also can't keep changing your price based on...
Yeah, people run away. Very good question. 2 ways. So I have 2 ways on dealing with that. When you do your overall costing, so you've done all your costing and you have a price of how much it actually costs to do your cake, right? Like you've put all your expenses, your packaging, your cake. You can choose to add 1% for inflation, right? You can do 5% of the total cost and put that there, right? Now, some people like doing that, especially bakery shops, because they are mature enough for their businesses. You're aware enough of your business to see how it functions. If that's not you, once you do your overall cost, there's a part where we add a profit margin, right? We're like, okay, I'm going to add this profit. So one of the things I've noticed home bakers do is they'll add like 2%, 3%, 5%. I always advise 15% and above. The 15% or the thought process behind the 15% is this. Even if you're making 5% profit, that 10 is to cushion you within a 6-month period from any inflation that happens. I think the highest within the last 3 years was like 9%. So you see, even if you're going 2, 3, 5, you're okay. right? If I put 15%, I'm very comfortable. Well, everybody else is changing prices. Okay, if you get 10, I'm very okay. Once it gets to 15, okay, obviously we need to change prices. So instead of putting small margins that people tend to do, stop that. Just start at 15. It's high, but it cushions you in every way. Cushions you from inflation. From the time you don't buy in bulk, but you buy retail, maybe you're not able to buy that 2 kg, you can only buy the 1 kg flour. Just small, tiny things, so that you don't have to be that person who keeps changing your prices. So just be setting a high percent, and like 15 is where I tell people, don't go 10, don't be tempted, just do 15%. Yeah.
There's a question out of wherever.
Yeah.
At some point, one may experience some sense of inferiority or something of the sort.
Yes.
So, how do I determine how I'll cost my labor?
Yeah.
Well, I want to make profit for myself.
True.
I have bills to cater for. Is there a standard charge that I'd put on my labor?
Okay, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a difficult question for me to answer because, so I'll give two things. First, in the industry, there are standards for how we, like if I was to hire a baker full time, there's a certain labor, what is it, a minimum I'm supposed to pay somebody, right? 15 or 20K. But even in the industry, the charges or the salaries are based on skill level. So if I am having a level 1 beginner baker who doesn't know how to decorate, that's something less, like 15K, 10K, 15K. As you increase skill, you're actually paid more. So you can choose to look at industry standards and just kind of start paying yourself that way. Now, the downside of that is when you're starting your business, you are not an established bakery, which means you can't tell yourself, I am a high-skilled baker, therefore I should pay myself 30,000. Your business doesn't even sell, 5 cakes or anything like that. So I would start, if you're starting business, I would start by telling you, look at your capacity at that time. What can your business afford? If you can't afford a lot, you may have to actually charge yourself or pay yourself a very small salary. What you would do is give yourself goals. Like if it's, I've been open 6 months, I've been open 12 months, you go adjusting. Go increasing sales, therefore go increasing your labor. However, like it depends. Again, if you have the capital when you're starting, you can pay yourself that higher salary. But if you don't, it's a little tricky. You have to look at what is my business producing? How is it performing so that I can go adjusting with, can I pay myself? If my business is selling 30, 40, 50 cakes a month, sure. If it's not, then that's one of the things that you're not able to do at first. So it's like a mix of things. Yeah. How well is your bakery doing? How young is it? How skilled are you? All those things. So I hope that kind of answers.
So how much I pay myself should depend on the skill level that I possess.
Yeah, when it's coming to baking, it's skill level. Because even us, when we hire people, we pay people, it's based on skill level. A baker is paid a certain way. Baker and cake decorator maybe up to a certain level. Mm-hmm. If you're doing wedding cakes, you're paid a bit more. Hypothetically, I'll answer that two parts. It is very hard to do hypothetical costing. So I will give you a poster that you're going to post on, I think, in your page, that will give a breakdown of like a cake that's costed 1,600 and how I got to the price. So I'll share that with you guys, right? Because it's so tricky to do the calculations like verbally over here. It's a bit tricky. Yes.
Okay. How do you place yourself in the market where the competition, let's say, is where you want to price so that you're within market level, but then your production cost doesn't allow. I'll give bread, for example.
Okay.
400 grams of bread now is being sold at 65, let's say. But your production cost, maybe for making 10 loaves, is way lower than that. So you can't sell 400 grams for 200 shillings. Yeah. So how do you compete in such an environment?
I'm going to give you an answer you won't like. I will tell you, don't compete in that. Don't compete. So, and I love that example of bread because as somebody who once tried it, it's a very tricky industry. There's different niches when it comes to baking, right? There's cake, there's wedding cakes, there's bread, pastries, all that stuff. Some are flexible, which is why if you ever notice, most home bakers start with celebration cakes and wedding cakes. It's flexible because it depends on my client. Does my client want a cheap wedding cake, or does my client want like wow show-stopping thing? You see, I can price differently based on that. Bread is market driven. It doesn't matter whether if somebody makes a lot of money or doesn't. They all know that bread is it has a certain standard. So there's some niches that are very specific. They're very price driven, market driven, and they are so specific you can't change around. And so for those markets, if you can't get in and compete in that level, don't get in and compete in that level. You'll make losses. I'm telling you for free as somebody who's done it. Yeah, just don't get into it. That's why, you know, some people will play around with like artisan breads, like Art Cafe does it and some other people. But you see, it's always anchoring with something else. Coffee, they anchor with cakes and stuff like that. You can't just do just the bread. It's such a tricky thing. And the people who do it do just that, right? Kendless, they just do that. And they find a big go down. They have the labor. They're able to manage those costs in a way that they make money. And also they're mass producing per month that they're able to make their money back, right? Very tricky for you as a home baker to do it. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. Some niches just don't get into until you're ready. Ruben, any other questions?
So what are common pricing mistakes that people make? And how they can avoid them?
Common mistakes. Okay, so I want to differentiate that. There's costing and there's pricing. So the reason I say that is that common costing mistakes are like not accounting for everything, right? Like you'll do ingredients, you put labor, but you don't put like marketing, airtime, you know, all this other stuff. Like the way when you're selling cake, you put a label on a cake, right? Some people don't put the cost of that label. Some people don't put, I don't know, like soap, stuff like that, right? So common mistakes of costing is not putting everything, not including everything, right? But when it comes to pricing, I would say not pricing for your niche, not pricing for your target market, like doing the costing, coming up with a percent, and then just selling like that. Again, you have to ask yourself, who am I selling to, right? Like the example I've just given with the 1500 in Kangware and all that stuff. If I'm in Kangware, I'm going to realize that, okay, this cake can't be sold at 1500, right? So when I do the costing and the pricing, I then start factoring other things. Niche, target market, location, all the things before I come up with an actual price, right? So I'd say for costing.
I think this specifically to you, do you cook real fruit cake?
Do I cook? I bake real fruit cake, yes.
What does real fruit cake mean?
That's another tricky question because there's different types of fruit cakes. There's light fruit cake and there's rich fruit cake. And within rich fruit cake, there's different types. Mm-hmm. So light fruit cake is when you basically incorporate like these dried fruits. You soak them beforehand. You make your mixture, your cake batter, then you incorporate this inside. So it's a good fruit cake, but it's light because it's light in color. It's not as deep. It doesn't have any liquor in it, all that stuff. Now, when it comes to rich fruit cake, you have to use multiple products. So you have to use this and also something called either molasses or black charcoal. You have to use that as well. Then on top of that, after you bake the cake, you have to start feeding it with a type of alcohol, usually rum or brandy. And it has to kind of age over a few months for you to get the result you're looking for. So that's sometimes called a rich fruit cake. Some people call it traditional fruit cake, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
So at that point where I'm using liquor, I should take into account the price of liquor.
Yes, and it tends to be more expensive because of that. Especially since you want to use a very high quality. Mm-hmm. Don't use this cheap stuff. So it tends to be more expensive because you can use, 2 liters all the way to 5 liters, depending on how long. Like if you want it to last 4 months, right? That's going to be quite expensive. So yeah. Yes.
So 4 months, meaning if you get an order for cake, for a wedding cake, you prepare the cake 4 months to the wedding and keep feeding it till the wedding.
Yeah. So you'll notice like a lot of bakers who do rich fruit cake, they have a minimum order like time. Okay. They tell you 3 months or 4 months, some 6 months, it depends. So if you've given me the order and our terms are pay me 70%, like that. I bake the cake. And then now what I'm going to do, those 15 kgs or whatever kgs, I'm going to feed daily, until a certain time. You don't feed until the end, right? You give it some 2 weeks or something in between. Yeah, but yes, you're going to be feeding that whole
refrigerated or at room temperature?
Not refrigerating. That feeding is actually a process of
preserving.
Exactly. So once you're doing that, actually, it's worse once you put it in the fridge. It crystallizes, so it can't absorb that alcohol. Yeah. So you just keep feeding until 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, and it's nice and soft and good.
Is there an non-alcoholic option for fruit
light
cake?
fruit cake, the one I just talked about?
Okay.
But you see now, because it's non-alcoholic, it can't last. Yeah. So that one's the one you bake like a regular cake.
So you use juice or what?
I would tell you use coffee. Coffee is so much better. It gives you a really nice aftertaste. So coffee is what I suggest. Some people do strong tea, like if you prefer that. Yeah, strong tea. Just like tea. Yeah, tea leaves without milk. Yeah. So, but coffee is really good.
Okay.
Location. Our location is Kimathi Street, Kimathi House Building, second floor, room 203. Navana is asking, in terms of profit, she feels like using whipping cream as icing is more expensive. Break down that.
So I think I will ask which type, kind of like the way you're asking with butter or margarine. So
she says, therefore she tends to limit herself to buttercream to save on cost of purchasing the raw materials. And remember that her buttercream is margarine.
Sure. If I would say if it works for you, that's good. Yeah. What I tell people is this: test. Like, even as much as I give people advice, don't take my advice. Make buttercream, make whipped cream, non-dairy, and make the whipped cream powder. Compare the costs. Out of that, choose as the business owner which one do I prefer. On top of that, look at my clients. Like, I'll have clients who they don't want the buttercream, right? Because it's too sweet or something like that. You might be shocked that just introducing that whipped cream, because it's less sweet, might get more people buying from you, right? Or even accepting that higher cost. So just test. I would always tell people tend to do one thing and stick with it. Always test everything you're doing.
Also, there must be students in Meru who are wealthy or moneyed. Target those ones.
Exactly.
And price your cakes at 1,200.
And you can start selling that nandiri and tell them it's sweeter, it tastes better, like market yourself, it looks better. So,
and also, because you talked about psychological marketing, you can also let them know that this is better, and that's why
psychology. Exactly. Yeah, true, it works.
Rose Bakery says, how can you advise someone in accordance to marketing your cakes? Which platforms are good? Her cakes.
It's such an in-depth topic. However, to keep it very simple, I would ask myself, who are my clients and where do they spend their time? So to give an example, if I am dealing with, like, let's say millennials or, people who like being on TikTok and just kind of keeping up with stuff, or Instagram, but they have the money to afford the stuff, I'd go there. Like, I'd go on Instagram and in TikTok. But the interesting thing is that these people will avoid, say, something like Facebook, but there'll be a much more mature target market that has the money, that are willing to buy if only you would post on Facebook, right? So I would always start with, what is it that you're selling? And based on what you're selling, where does your target market spend their money, right? Then I'd go there. Let me give an example. There's a specific type of cake we do it's very specific. So not everyone is going to be looking for it. And then we also need the person to understand what it is, right? Because if I just tell the masses, not everybody will get it, right? So one of the things that I tend to do sometimes is go to pop-up markets. If you've heard of pop-up markets, they'll be organized by a specific set of people for, like, expatriates, people who love, what do they call this Masai stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like bourgeois kind of people. So instead of focusing in different ways, I'll go to the pop-up markets. Those pop-up markets, not only will you get people to buy, and then I'll do smaller pieces of something, and then I'll collect information, right? Can we get back to you? Can we do that? Can we WhatsApp with sales? Something like that. So already it's my target market because they have bought, they can afford, they have tasted, they've understood. So they are so, because they're generalized to that area, I'm actually able to attract more the type of customer I'm looking for there than randomly posting on Facebook. You get what I'm saying? But that happened because I understood my clientele. So ask yourself, what am I selling and who wants this thing that I'm selling? Then that person who wants the thing I'm selling, what do? Do they spend more time on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all three of them, YouTube, which one? Once you understand that, then go there where they spend time. Is it TikTok? Do they like lives? Go there.
So
Is
that
it
means
Instagram?
I have to have already tried all of the platforms to break it down to understand that
exactly.
they actually
but I wouldn't start with
congregate on
platform.
Facebook.
I would start with person. Like I would ask the person, kind of like, you can ask general questions on where did they find you or the type of behavior they have. Over time, like you can kind of pick up something about somebody. Like the way people will be like, Gen Z is on TikTok, but like Gen X is on Facebook, that kind of thing. So try and understand who you're selling to first.
So this means I make cake and go try it out outside first.
Exactly. Or you can look at somebody who sells. Here's a better example. If I'm starting, I'd look at who sells the thing that I want to sell and who are their target market, right? Now, this is a very general example, but let's say I am looking at somebody like Cake City. Maybe I want to start a Cake City. So I'd go to Cake City and see who's buying. How does Cake City market? Now, I didn't say copy paste, but just kind of have an idea of those clientele. Where are they usually? So when I'm testing myself, even if I'm going to go test the platforms, I have a general idea of what I'm testing. Like, am I testing doing a Facebook ad? Am I testing doing a TikTok live showing people me piping cupcakes for packing? Am I doing a pack with me on Instagram as a reel, right? Like that kind of thing. So start by understanding the person first. Like, what does the person consume? Then try and go in front of them. But the other thing I want to say to that is that you may have to test all the platforms. Because these days, people are doing, like, I don't only consume TikTok, right? You consume two or three social medias.
Yeah.
So I tell you, pick 3 social medias that are visual that you can use, like TikTok, Instagram, and like Facebook. Then see how that works for you.
Martinez is asking, how do you deal with clients that you haven't met the expectations?
That's a good question. Even though I would love her to explain a bit more if she has a specific incident.
So, Martinez, do you have a specific incident?
So if you haven't, I would imagine if it's instant, maybe if you need to apologize to the client or like get back to them as fast as possible, try and figure out how can you solve the problem, right? I'm not a big fan of always refunding, but I'm a big fan of like, can I give you something else or can I give you the thing again? Like, let's say the cake got there, it was mashed or mushed by the rider, replacing the cake or something like that. So I think it depends on the scenario.
So what if it's a scenario that I baked a cake, probably she was referred to me,
okay,
and then I charged the cake at 2,900, and she didn't like. Probably she saw that the price does not match the quality.
Good question. First, I'd get feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as much as we always think our clients are too pissed off, do you know you can give them time and tell them, listen, I would like to fix this. Can you tell me exactly what were you expecting and what didn't meet your expectation? They will always tell you. They'll tell you it didn't look as good, your decoration was bad, your cake tasted bad, all those things. That's feedback for you to improve. Yeah. If the cake tasted bad, get recipes. You can just get recipes from us. Like, we have tried and tested recipes. If it's not that, it's the decoration. Okay, do I need to take a class to get better at decorating? Again, we offer classes. Come for class, right? Or is it what they asked for is not exactly what they wanted? You can ask them, is it that the design wasn't it? Or was it the execution or something like that? They might even have a photo like, actually, this is what I wanted. See if you can replace it with what they wanted, right? So figure that out. Then again, after that, I would go back and ask myself, am I selling things that I can't execute? Like, I'm telling people I do custom cakes, but I don't have the skill level. If that's you, stop doing that. Sell only what you can actually execute on. Don't sell stuff you're not able to do. Yeah, I don't know if she gave an example. If she did, that'd be nice.
She is yet to give an example. but there is Wambo who says, I'm a student fresh from school. How should I start pricing my product? And Wambo, I would also ask, are you a student fresh from bakery
Baking
school,
school,
pastry
exactly.
school, or
That's what I was
just
gonna ask.
school?
Because what skill level is what matters. So
Yeah.
if you're, and there's nothing wrong with self-taught, but I'm always telling people, even if you're self-taught, take like an online class or like find some type of basic information, base information. I'll give you some professional foundation, because that's a difference. That's why you get those people like Martina was saying, I asked for this, I got this thing. Now, if you're self-taught and you don't understand how texture should be, then you sell cake to somebody who understands how it should be, but you've never gone to class and you don't know how you're supposed to do stuff. That's why people are unhappy.
Yeah.
Go take the class, learn how to do it professionally, then you can start selling cakes. Yeah.
So Wambo has clarified that she's a student from pastry school.
Okay.
But I don't think they were taught
How to price. Two things. Please learn how to price correctly. So one thing I'd tell you is, again, I'll give Topserve a poster to post on Facebook. However, we do have an ebook. I tell you, just get the ebook. It's 250 shillings.
It's only 250.
Yeah, it just gives you an explanation how to cost. You get a spreadsheet with formulas that you put in there that makes it easy for you. It's like a calculator. Right?
Spreadsheet means
Excel sheet. Sorry.
Excel sheet.
Yeah, Excel
so
sheet.
this person has to do
Excel. Yeah.
manual
True.
entries.
But we have two. You can do the manual entry one, but we also have like a Word document you can print and just do the math. Simply.
Right.
Yeah. So learn how to do it correctly. Let me just say that.
Rose Bakeries is out of the topic, but when will you have classes for wedding cake trainings?
We actually have one-on-one wedding cake trainings, walk-ins. So if she's on TikTok, she can actually follow us, Baking with Amari, and you can reach out. We actually can do walk-ins. It's usually 5 days, 30,000. You can just come in and do the class. Or you can take an online class that's 3,500.
What?
We have practical
Which one
classes
is
online.
3,500?
3,500 is an online class for wedding cakes. Yes, it is. Because we offer all tools and everything, and it's a high level skill.
Or you offer the tools and accessories?
Yeah, you just bring yourself.
Also, I want to remind bakers, remember we have a running offer on very, very many silicone molds and baking mats and veiners that are going for 200 shillings only. And we will ask Amari, what if I buy now? I buy a Chevron silicone mat that I'll use with my fondant cake.
Yes.
How will I still factor in costing and
Of the tools.
pricing in my cakes, since this accessory that I'll use for like a year?
Over time.
Yeah.
Yes. So in our pricing book, that's one of the things, by the way, we include. We have a cost called cost of using equipment. In accounting, people call it depreciation, right? This is the cost of using your ovens, your mixer, your tables, these types of tools, right? So when you're doing your costing, one of the indirect costs that we always account for is the cost of using equipment. Some people call it wear and tear. So you have to put that cost in there so that every time, you use a product, if it spoils or finishes, you can be able to buy again. So yes, you want to account for those costs.
So how will I account if I bake 30 cakes this year? How will I account for 200 shillings silicone mold? Will I put 20 shillings per cake or what?
I wouldn't tell you per cake because, again, it depends on which niche. So if your niche is custom cakes, you can do that. But let me give you a simpler way of thinking about it. If I have a silicone mold that's going to last for 5 years and it's 200, I am going to break down, like, how much is it going to cost me to use the mold. Here, let me just do math, okay? So if it's going to last for 5 years, how much is it going to cost me to use per year, right? So the mold is 200. So each year is going to cost me 40 shillings. I break it down to 1 month. So per month is going to cost me 3 shillings to use. She can opt to put 1 shilling or 3 shilling per cake every time she does a cake. So it accounts for the cost of using this each month. That 3 shillings, 3 shillings, 3 shillings. Has that made sense? I hope.
Yeah, so in conclusion, you can say it's very cheap.
For the silicone, yes.
For buy silicone molds, since they are very...
Yeah, it's a return
it's
on
a
investment.
repetitive
It
accessory
pays
to
itself
use.
back. Exactly.
Yeah. And let's not forget that at Topserve we have very, very many designs of accessories that you can use, and very many are have wholesale pricing. If you also are a retail shop that resells cake accessories, we offer wholesale pricing for it too, given the quantities that you'd like to purchase. Any other questions? What is a regular question that you get when you ask family? Other people will try to Now that you mentioned skill, she says that many bakers have a problem in how they charge their labor. Now that you mentioned skill, how do I determine that my skill is valued at 5,000 or 200 per hour?
Right. Good question. Yeah. So allow me to get just a bit technical.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with the piece, the one I said piecework. Like, let's say it's a side hustle, or you're not so busy, so you want to charge per cake, right? So for that, again, first I ask myself, is it a celebration cake, just soft cream, is it simple, or is it a custom cake like high skill fondant? Now, this is odd, but I find that when I explain this, this tends to make sense to people. So if you have ever dealt with like something like fundis, like these people who come and fix, whether it's plumbing or whatever, they give you a certain amount per day, right? So kitambo used to be like 1,000, now it's like 1,500 or 2,000. And this is like a plumber electrician, which means they are a tradesman who has the skill. They've gone to school, all that stuff. So I look at the 1,500. Then I tell myself, even if they stay the whole day, at the most they work 8 hours. Most will work less, but let's say 8 hours. So if we do 1,500 divided by 8, it means per hour, you're paying this person 187.5. That's a skilled tradesman who is making money from something he's learned, like at a technical level. Technically, that's what you as a baker are, right? If you were to look at it as like a beginner to intermediate baker and cake decorator, that's where I'd put you. Like skilled, you've learned, it's making you money. So that's, I think, a good starting point. Like if you were to ask yourself, can I sustain myself if I had 26 days of being paid as a fundi, this fundi was a baker, can I make it, right? Even if it's 1K, let's say 26 times 1,000, that's 26,000. So you can sort of try and figure out how to settle on a daily price for you as a baker to be paid. So you can choose 1,500 or you can choose 1,000, right? And you can justify it based on my experience and level. So when bakers are starting, I tell them, you can't do 1,500. You can't even do 1,000 because I can't even pay you that. At the most, if you're a beginner, I can maybe pay you 500 a day. And I've observed you worked with me and I'm like, okay, this one, is doing quite well. So if that's how someone else would look at, and you can go ask other bakers, or if I was an intern or something like, how much would you pay me? Mostly it would be something like that. So between 500 and 1,000. Beginner to intermediate level, not crazy stuff, but can do a nice cake. So you see that has given you where to start. Let's take the 500 per day. 500 divided by 8 is 62.5 per hour. Which means if I work 6 hours on a cake, 62.5 times 6, 375 per cake. I think that's a good, like a 1 kg whipped cream with sprinkles. I think that's very reasonable for labor to be 375. And you can round off and make it 400. So I'd say that's kind of how you start quantifying your skill level as you continue. You yourself, as you continue, you will invest in classes, right? You'll go for the wedding cake, you'll do the what. The more you up level, like review yourself every 6 months, that depending on how busy you are. So if you're busier and you're taking more classes, review every 6 months or 1 year. Because like for me, I'd review every 1 year. Have I increased my skill? Yes, I will increase my labor. Even if it is kadogo, like I'll go from 60 per hour to 100, I will. Just because I'm increasing my skill. So I have to make money from this increased skill that if you bought a birthday cake from me 5 years ago, now it's a different birthday cake, right? So you have to also go increasing your skill level. So I'd start with that. Like how much per day? Take it to 1 hour, times 6 or times whatever, do that. Same thing kind of works for a salary, right? So I said Some bakeries will pay just a baker cake decorator like 15K to 20K. They start paying 35, 60, all the way up to 50 for somebody who's doing these wedding cakes, right? So if it's 50K, okay, how many cakes are you selling per month? If I'm selling 50 cakes per month and I'm paying myself, that's like 1,000 per cake. If your clientele is correct, that is okay. There's people who sell their cakes 4,500 per kg. 1,000 of that is most likely labor, which is okay, right? But they are at that level which they can charge that amount. So I'd say match your skill, like be honest. If you're not 1,000 level, usieke 1,000. But as you increase and you try and get there, go increase in that price.
I have this notion that the market is big enough for all of us.
Exactly.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
So what if in this safe market, I have done my costing, try and be at market level?
Yeah.
The math is not market.
Yeah.
Does that mean I abandon ship? Is there something I'm doing wrong?
That's a good
Because I mean, this market,
yeah.
everybody is selling at around the same.
True.
The prices are not exactly the same. It's
Yeah.
a difference of 100,
Yeah.
400.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing my costing.
Yeah.
At 1,000.
Yes.
So is there something I'm doing wrong?
Then should I change my clientele?
Yeah, that is an amazing question because it's a very self-aware question. That's not even really because that's business. Like as an entrepreneur, that's you have to keep asking yourself those questions. So it's multiple things. Like you said, am I selling to the wrong people? Am I not marketing the right way? Because like the interesting thing is that how I was marketing 2 years ago, even 1 year ago, is not how I'm doing it now. You're having to change because of so many things, right? So one thing, just kind of, I'd say audit your business. Do you have systems? Do you have specific ways you're doing marketing? If you're doing marketing, do you know what your return on investment is? Like fine, you're posting on TikTok every day, 3 times a day. And it's getting millions of views, but is it giving you customers? Because you can do all that and 0 customers. So make sure you're tracking things, seeing if what you're doing is giving the result you want and why not, right? And do I need to pivot from TikTok? Maybe Instagram is where people have money and that's where I should be really going. Or like another thing I tried that was so surprising to me was influencers. So I tried 2 influencers like a period of time and the amount of sales I got from them was kind of shocking as opposed to like the work I was doing before. So you see, just tweaking that one thing in my marketing gave me like such a crazy result. But I had never thought of that when it comes to marketing. So are you trying different things? Are you trying new things? What's your output and what's coming in once you do that? Another thing to tell you is saturation. Your market changes, like the baking market changes. You might start and like maybe the industry is newish, but like, 5 years down the line, everyone and their mother and their auntie is baking. So one of the things I tell people, especially if you've been in the industry for like 2 or 3 years, stop swimming down here because like everyone is down here. So stop competing hapa and start figuring how do I start competing here. If you look at bakers, maybe you admire. What are they doing? They're not doing soft cream cakes. They're doing other stuff. How can I niche out so that I stick out? And again, you can even still niche out with that whipped cream, but do something so specific that is not like other people. So you might have to stand out in the market and stop competing in a very saturated market that is hard to compete in, right? Small things. So I'd say that location, like maybe where you were was working, but then you became many, and so maybe you need to think of another location or that. If you exhaust all those things, and it's very rare that we exhaust all those options, then can you exit and start something else? Because I've always found in entrepreneurs, you'll quit this, come here, and then you'll pick at the same problem. You never change your marketing. You're doing something similar, but you get there and you're stuck. And all you needed to do is do something different, right? Change your marketing. Sometimes it's even, what do you call it? Not consistency, quantity. Like maybe I used to post once a week. Now I need to start posting once a day. Maybe once a day is not working anymore, right? So there's a time TikTok, nobody was on TikTok, right? I used to post and it would be amazing. Now everyone is on TikTok. So posting once is not enough, right? You have to do it twice. You have to look at what time, like who is post, like so many things. So as you grow or as the market grows, you also have to grow, like in what you're doing and trying different things. Yeah. So audit different things, then choose. Should I stop or should I keep going? Yeah.
Someone is asking, between Pristina and Puratos, which one will you advise in terms of stability?
Puratos is interesting because they have 2 products. Ambiente and Whippack.
Ambiente and Whippack and Diana actually.
Diana is the powder one. Interesting. I think my personal preference is Pristine because it's kind of similar in terms of Ambiente. But to be honest, I'm an Ambiente person originally. It's slightly more superior in taste and volume. I'd say get them all, test them out, see what you like.
For someone who would desire to acquire a fresh clientele, a new clientele,
yes,
probably because of pricing or because they want to increase their prices, how would you advise them to go about offering discounts and doing promotions and still avoid wastage or loss? Yes.
So tricky. That is so tricky. I would focus on volume. Like, if I'm doing sale, I would see how can I get people to buy a lot of the thing that I have on sale. So that's what I'd say. But then also it would mean getting creative with your marketing. And as much as I find like home bakers and small bakers don't want to spend money, but like spend money on influencers or something similar. Like figure out if it's influencers or ads. Because the problem is people aren't seeing your message usually, right? And you see, I'm saying sell volume. So if I'm not seeing your message and I'm telling you sell a lot, how will you sell it? Two ways. Influencers, they do a good job because they have reach, especially if you match up with the right ones. Or secondly, ads. Ads amplify your message to more people. So figure out how you can pay to get more eyeballs on your content, so that you're selling more. Then now you're able to sell cheaper because even if it's cheaper, ata kama ni 50 bob you're making on that cake, if you sell 10 cakes a day or 20 cakes a day, you see that's racking up to be a lot of money. The problem is people do a sale, then they sell only one item a week, which is pure loss. So if you're changing up, like you have to do multiple things. You have to figure out how you're branding, doing your marketing, make sure people are seeing. People who did not see your message before are seeing your message. That's the only way you're going to get the volume you need to do the discount and make the money. Or you'll do discounts, you'll make losses, and people won't see.
Should one include time spent planning and shopping for supplies in their labor?
Always.
How do I
figure out how to be the 6 hours? The 6 hours I was coming up with was that it was shopping, prep, baking, cooling, decoration. So you always want to include all those hours. Second way of doing it is giving yourself a salary, right?
Yeah.
So if you know my time is spent in this business basically 30 days in a month. And you see, you incorporate all those things, right? You'll shop, you'll do what? How much do you want this business to pay this person, you or whoever else, in this business? So the way you would be paid 8 to 5, somebody else was hiring you, the way you pay yourself in this business.
So if you're factoring in shopping and planning, it's about if you're paying yourself per hour.
Per hour, that's the 6 hours I'd come up with. So I say baking, cooling, and decorations like 3 hours or 4 hours. The 2 are those other things.
So, since we said that for costing of a cake to make sense, and for you also for your labor to make sense, pricing your labor at less than 1,000 or 1,500 doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense, right? Per day. So at no point will a cake cost 2,000 or even 2,500.
It should be more, yes.
Should be more.
It should be more, yes.
So those bakers who are doing
1,500, 800, you're making losses.
So how does, if you could probably try to think like that person who costs a cake at 1,500, what will they be doing? And definitely they're doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
So what are they doing and what are they doing wrong?
So one of the things I like telling people is that, because I get a lot of that and I get a lot of pushback from people like, what do I do? Who do I sell to? Like, I always ask you, like, why did you get into business? Is it that you want to give charity cakes? Because if so, continue on. You're doing the right thing. That's an expensive hobby, but carry on. However, if you want to make money, like sometimes you have to be self-aware of how much do I need to charge or how much am I using. So again, sit down and cost. Find out how much does it actually cost to make that cake, right? And if you'll put up the sample. I have tons of content on costing. You can buy the ebook. There's a lot of content I have on that. for you to sit down and figure out how much is it actually costing. Because I find most people just haven't done it. They went to a Naivas or whatever, saw the price and put theirs. They actually didn't sit down, take their recipe and do the breakdown. So that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm just asking you, can you do the costing of your direct cost, indirect cost, and find out how much does it cost? 99.9% of people I tell to do that, they find out that it's costing them. They are selling 1,500, but it's costing them 2,000 to make the cake, which means you're selling at a loss, right?
So let's do a practical. I bought a cake. I'm selling a what cake? What is a regular cake? That
Vanilla cake.
Vanilla cake. So what do I need to use in a vanilla cake?
So you look at your recipe, which is like flour, baking powder, sugar, margarine, eggs, milk.
How much will that probably cost?
I would tell you maybe a range of between 300 to 400, depending on how you buy it.
For sugar, margarine, salt.
Yeah, all those things. For like just the recipe by itself, just the cake.
So I've not touched whipping cream. I've not touched nothing. So if I add whipping cream?
If you add whipping cream, maybe there's like, now what would that be? Maybe like something like 100 bob or 200. There's packaging. We haven't put the cost of labor, which is like that, we were saying 375 or 400. So if we look at ingredients, let me make this easy.
So I've already come to 700.
Let's look at ingredients, packaging, 400. Let's look at 400 as the labor. That's 800. We have not put electricity. I had said for electricity, one cake, put 2 tokens. 1 token is 30 bob. I'm giving you a general thing. So that's 60. So far we have 860. We have not put rent. We have not put water. But I'll leave those out because you're a home baker and hey, you don't pay rent and the water is right there. So we're at something like 860. Okay? Let's put that aside. There's the indirect costs. These are marketing. This is airtime. This is the soap, the super bright. This is the transport for like going to buy stuff and come back, right? Delivery of this, M-Pesa charges, bank charges, till charges if you have a till. There's so many things. Professional fees, like for us, we'll put like website hosting, all those things. And sometimes that cost by itself sometimes might be more than an indirect cost. So you might find like it's also another 800 just by itself. So we have 860 and we have 800, and I'm being very modest. I'm just giving a nice figure.
And paying yourself 400 only.
The 400 is there, and that's just paying the baker, which majority of the time most people don't even do. They don't even pay themselves. Okay, so we at 1660. Let's round it off to 1700. That's how much it costs you to make a very simple cake.
Very 16. Simple standard.
Very
cake.
Simple. This is not fondant. This is just whipped cream, sprinkles, that's it.
Have you even added sprinkles?
No, we had not even put sprinkles. Yes. So that 800 I'm talking about for the indirect, it's cost of using equipment, it's marketing, it's advertising, like in general, it's airtime, Wi-Fi or internet, cleaning agents and detergents. I'm looking at maybe free samples. We're doing free samples, something like that. I usually round off like some professional fees. Remember, sometimes like for some of us, we are putting in maintenance because we've been having these things for a while. So once in a year, you will spend a large chunk of money for somebody to come fix something. So you have to put repair costs in there, professional costs. Just those 2 small costs in there. Cling film, greaseproof paper. People don't even account for stuff like that. Stationery, receipts, taxes. Yeah, all those things, we put them in there. Yes.
Let's say you've said Wi-Fi.
Yes.
But maybe I've not used the Wi-Fi
Yeah.
for the making of the cake, but it is, let's say, for somebody who has a bakery, it's
Yes.
an office expenditure.
Yes.
So something like Wi-Fi and
Yeah.
maybe the milk that you use to take tea in the
Yeah.
office.
There
Should
you
that
go.
be costed in the each and every product, or that is an office expenditure? As in, is it part of the costing of the product, or it's counted as office expenditure?
Yes, it is actually, and I think it's because you came late. So when I was talking about costing, I talked about direct and indirect. Direct are directly related to making the cake, the labor, the ingredients, anything that without that thing, that cake can't be there. Indirect are all those things, those operational costs, that tea, that office tea, those stationery, everything else, and that's what most people leave out. They'll do the direct, and it'll be ambiguous, like I don't know if you're removing it from your pocket or whatever. Those you have to account for. So you have to account for even like meals. There's a time we used to do meals like when we're in the bakery, and I never used to account for that till I found there's like a chunk of money that's not been accounted for somewhere. You add on to that. product, you have to add any expense that has to do with the business, even if it is not related directly to the cake, but it somehow has to do with the business, has to be accounted for. Yeah. So that's how that figure, most people think like 1,500 is enough. No, you'll actually find, and not to discourage home bakers, but sometimes home bakers' cakes are very expensive because you've accounted all those costs and you found that my cost of making a cake is 2,000 or 2,500 cost without adding profit margin. Yeah.
So let's say, for example, Wi-Fi, you're paying 5,000.
Yeah.
And then you need one cake a day.
Yeah.
So just that one cake.
I wouldn't tell you 5K. Let me tell you this. What I tell you, if you're a home baker, quantify, give the bakery some amount. So if you pay 5,000, let's say in a house, but you still post on Facebook and everything, say that the bakery should at least pay for 1,000 per month for the cake, right? For the bakery. So remember how I was saying, if you have like, for example, you give yourself a salary, let's take the salary setting, and in your salary is 30K and you sell 15 cakes a month. See, each cake has to pay that salary if you get 30K, right? Whether it's like, I think it's what, 2,000 or something like that. Each cake has to pay you 2,000, so it quantifies and becomes the 30K. You do the same for internet. If I pay internet 1,000 and I sell 10 cakes, I just divide the 1,000 by 10. So each cake should pay 100 for Wi-Fi. So the reason why a cake gets expensive is, let's say this is my bakery. I'm telling this cake, all these cakes I sell per month have to pay for everything. So if I'm selling 30 cakes, these 30 cakes have the stress of rent, the stress of kulipa mtu, the stress of kulipa Wi-Fi, all that stuff. So what happens with bakers, they look busy, but they look in their pocket, there's no money. That's because you're not making enough cakes to pay for all the things that are in this business, whether it is the ingredients, the direct costs, or the indirect costs. So your job as an entrepreneur is to make sure you're making enough cakes to cover all your costs, right? Or where can I reduce costs so the cakes I'm making are able to cover this? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So it's either you have very many cake orders,
yes,
or you are doing
it's not either. The funny part,
of
you would have to be a very specific premium baker, and right now I think of only two that I know of, that people will pay anything.
Two that you know.
Yeah, two that
So
I know.
what will you say about how they go about? What will you share how they go about their own
brand? And also they've been in the industry for so long. Like this is 20, 30 years of being in the industry that people know you. So because I know you, I will pay whatever amount for your cake because I know it's a good cake.
So how much do they charge their cakes?
It depends. It starts from like 5,500, some to 10K, something like that.
10K for what?
Per kg of cake.
A kg of cake?
Yes.
So how did the person arrive to such?
They probably did their cost and did times 110%. Like they're selling brand, they're not selling
cake anymore.
You're not dealing in this level of whatever. You're selling brand.
They're no longer competing.
It's like Nike, LVMH, all those people. You think that bag costs that much you buy for?
Not.
No, it costs a small fraction, but they're selling brand, which I think is the smartest thing ever. If you can get to that point where people don't care the thing, they care the brand. That's how you make it.
How does a baker who in Nairobi is now just, it's 2 years in, what will you say they can brand themselves? How can they brand themselves to start?
I will give you a few tips. That's a masterclass in itself, but I think branding is time. I think that's people never want to hear that, but branding equals time.
Is it really? Because
yes.
You can exist, but just okay.
Now I said that's why I say it's a masterclass. It's a lot of things. So first, like make sure in your head you've adjusted expectations. Give yourself 5 to 10 year horizon. That's number one. Number two, define your brand. Like how do you want to be known? Do you want to be these people who you can get cheap things anytime, any place, 24 hours? Fine. Do you want to be premium? You have to give me a 10-day, whatever. Mine is very scarce and I need time before I make your thing. Like first you have to define the things that you are and also the clients you want. By doing that, then you put out content or things that, if I think of your brand, brand is a very interesting thing. It's very ambiguous. It's like, it's a feeling. What feeling do you get from somebody? Yeah. So when you put on content, you're putting out content so that people have this feeling or like association with you. Do I feel angry when I hear about this brand? Do I feel happy when I hear about this brand? Do I feel luxurious, bougie stuff when that's what you want to do? So if you put out this content and this atmosphere, and maybe if it's a shop, make sure your decoration matches that, then you can start building brand. And of course, a lot of advertising as well.
So in conclusion, what tip will you leave for
people?
Yeah.
If you're a home baker, sit down and do your actual costing. And I mean actual costing of your direct cost, indirect cost. If you need help, reach out. We have ebooks, we have free resources. We'll share the links you need. Do the actual costing before you actually do your pricing. Right? That's first thing I tell home bakers. Small bakery shops, audit your business. Like, not only do your costing, but see how many sales are you making per month? How are you buying stuff? Are you buying in bulk? How are your expenses? Where can you save? And then now sit down and do your costing properly. Right? So that's what I tell you. If you're a home baker, you need recipes that are tried and tested, reach out. We have the recipes, so you can be able to cost something that's very good as well.
Right. I think we'll close it here. Everyone who joined us, thank you very much for joining us. Again, it's Topserve Limited, your baking solution partner. Amari, I believe she has given you great gems about how you go about pricing and costing your cakes to achieve good profitability. You want to attain premium profitability, look at your brand and how you're positioning yourself in the market. Also be competitive in terms of what you offer, how you offer it, and also your customer service. Remember, we offer wholesale pricing for those who do bulk baking, and also for resellers and retailers, we offer wholesale pricing to ensure that you meet profit. So there are minimum order quantities for different accessories, different packaging, different ingredients. We also have large or bulk products for those who bake in bulks. Yeah, you wanna buy whipping cream and still ensure that you have some sort of discount. We offer different pricing for 12-pack. Currently, we have an ongoing sale for the 26-piece gum paste flour set to make different edible flours, going for 1,000 shillings only. You can make 26 and more different type of flours with that set. We also have an ongoing sale as long as stock counts, as long as stock do what?
Stocks are inside.
As long as stocks last.
Yeah.
We have an ongoing sale for different veiners, different silicone molds, and silicone mats that you can use to decorate your different custom cakes. And with this, as long as you are able to stand out in the market, you can be able to price and cost your cakes as high as possible to achieve profitability. Continue to follow us on different social media. Continue to watch us on YouTube by Topserve Limited, our social media, Facebook page, Topserve Cake Decorating and Edible Printing, on Instagram and Topserve Ltd, Topserve Limited, and on TikTok, Topserve Limited Cake Supplies at Topserve Ltd. We have, remember, do not forget, we have different branches through which you can get your cake accessories and cake ingredients. We have 2 branches in Nairobi. We have a branch in Bungoma, a branch in Meru, another one in Nakuru, one in Kisumu, Kisii, and Eldoret. So there are different places you can reach us to ensure here you can save costs of transport. If you're used to a Nairobi branch and you are in Nyanza region, you can get your accessories in our Kisumu branch. Also, for those who are far, we're not located, we offer same-day deliveries. So don't think you can miss out on any type of accessory or any type of ingredient just because you are located in a different region. Yeah, come to us for any type of thing, not only ingredients. You also have cake stands here. If you did not get it, you have this white metallic cake stand that goes for 3,500 shillings only. And when you buy 3 pieces of different sizes, when you buy the whole set, goes for 9,000 shillings instead of 10,500. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please shoot them, share them on our WhatsApp or on our social media. Amari will be available to answer them. If it's something that you might have missed out, we are also available to answer any question that you may have. Thank you for joining and welcome to Topserve once more. the baking solution partner. So if you do not get about where Amari is located, or her social media, or her website, she'll share once more and we'll close. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruben. So we are located on Gong Road, Arcades Discount Mall, next to the greenhouse, shop 52. We have a website, amaribakery.com. You can also find us TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, most social media. Just search Baking with Amari. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can just check us out. Thank you.
Do you have a job for a food scientist?
I do not.
You do not?
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll end there.